Welcome to Creator's Head Studio. I'm Tom Arcu, feature film producer, director, screenwriter, and novelist.
And I'm John Colton, creator of ColtonComics.com and writer of Paul Bunyan versus Dracula.
So it's Superman versus Spider-Man versus Indiana Jones. Who's got the smart idea? The smart idea is don't break the franchise.
The recent article where
Mhm.
James Gunn was talking about a couple of different things. The Robert Pattinson Batman
Mhm.
might not be in the same universe as Superman. That
Elseworlds.
they could be doing Elseworlds, and I hope we see Elseworlds as a brand
Uh-huh.
with DC movies
Sounds good to me.
because it opens up them doing Red Sun
Oh yeah,
and a lot other, classic great graphic novels.
sure.
Potentially, if you have these different universes,
Mhm.
you could have three or four people playing Batman at the same
Wow.
time,
Cool.
and the audience would get used to the idea, just like comic fans did,
Sure.
that this is an alternate Batman.
Right.
And that would allow Warner Brothers to really develop quality scripts because they're
Right.
not in a rush
Yes.
to pump out the next Batman movie. They can have one
Mhm.
every couple of years, and maybe it's a different one.
Oh, okay.
They keep the Batman money flowing, but they don't have to rush through production.
Right. For those folks who may have not heard about Batman Gaslight, just give a little detail on that one.
It's kind of the same archetypes
Right.
and Alfred, Bruce Wayne, but
Mhm.
it takes place during the time period of Gaslights
Uh-huh.
and kind of early America, early Gotham.
Right.
It's a lot of fun.
Oh, sure, sure. So the idea about Superman versus Spider-Man versus Indiana Jones and about the good idea or the smart idea is that with the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man, we've got a situation where we don't go back to the origin story. We don't have to see that.
You can just jump right into the story
Mm.
because the overarching story that's going to take place usually doesn't have anything to do with the origin.
Right. And John, you have created Paul Bunyan versus Dracula, the comic, and people can join the pre-launch right now.
From what Gunn has said, that's what they're going to do with the film DCU
Mhm.
Batman movies as well. They're
Excellent.
not going to retell Superman's origin. They're not going to retell Batman's origin.
Right.
The audience knows those, especially your target audience.
Right. Of
If
course.
somebody doesn't know it, their friend can explain it to them.
Sure.
And you just move forward with what the new story's about and what the action is.
Right.
In Homecoming, it was about 5 seconds worth of flashback.
There you go.
That was Spider-Man's origin.
Yeah.
And it happened at a moment where he was thinking about that
Mhm.
because it was relative to the main news story that was happening.
And an important smart idea is that don't bog us down. Don't put us through the origin story again. We've been through it over and over again. And you don't do that with James Bond. You know, the whole Daniel Craig universe of James Bond was to take it all the way from Casino
Right.
Royale, but we don't have to do that every time. I think we're on the same page with this is don't break the franchise. And so here's the thing. You have an idea for Indiana Jones 6, and you told me about it earlier today, and I thought, oh my gosh, you've got to share that. But not only that, it shows what a great writer and a great premise writer you are. So take it away, Indiana Jones number 6.
So they're not numbered. That probably wouldn't be the title.
I know.
But the
Indiana
the
Jones, the good
object,
movie. How about that? Well,
yeah,
that's the
the
subtitle.
object in this
Mm-hmm.
one is kind of referenced in the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's you just want to give Indiana Jones a good send-off.
Right.
And I think it can be done. The previous two movies were a little disappointing,
A lot
but
disappointing.
they
Mhm.
yeah, I was I was being nice. They didn't ruin Indiana Jones the character.
Okay.
And so you can still go back to the well.
Okay.
And the object would be the Spear of Destiny.
Okay.
And that's its most common name. You'd have to change it up. So some of the other names for that are, it could be Indiana Jones and the Holy Lance,
Okay.
or Indiana Jones and the Lance of Longinus,
Oh,
or Indiana Jones and the Sacred Lance.
okay.
Just
I
spitballing.
lean toward the Sacred Lance or something like that.
Yeah, it works. Sounds nice.
Okay.
And for those not familiar, this is the spear that pierced the ribs of Christ
Hmm.
by the Roman soldiers.
Hmm.
And supposedly, whoever holds this lance cannot be defeated in war. The Romans had it, then it supposedly fell into the hands of the Byzantine Empire,
Right.
and then the Holy Roman Empire,
Hmm.
and then into Charlemagne's hands,
Wow.
and Napoleon,
Yes.
and then Hitler. And
Okay.
because of the time period in Indiana Jones, our movie would have to take place in the late 60s, early 70s.
Hmm.
And it starts off with someone from the church coming to Indiana Jones, retired professor,
Okay.
and saying, they need his help.
Okay.
And the Soviets are on the cusp of stealing the sacred lance.
Hmm.
And Indiana Jones doesn't want to get involved. He says, I'm not the best expert on this anyways. You guys want to talk to someone else. And they said, we know your father would have been the world's best expert on this. We would have liked to have got hold of his diary. And Indiana Jones says, unfortunately, he was so committed to that diary, we buried him with it.
Hmm.
And the guy from the church says, yes, unfortunately, the Soviets found that out, and they got their hands on the diary when they exhumed his body.
Hmm.
And then, this is the Harrison Ford little snarl.
Yes.
And he says, they did what?
Right. And so now he's in.
Yeah.
He's personal stakes. He's in.
Right. And that could be the put on the hat moment.
Hmm. Dun, dun,
Uh,
dun, 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 dun. There you go.
and then he says, the real expert we need to get on this is in Oxford.
Hmm.
And that's where they meet Short Round.
Yes.
We come to find out Short Round got introduced to Henry Sr., Indiana Jones's father,
Hmm.
who paid for him to go to school, and he
Yes.
became a successful archaeologist in his own right.
We celebrate actor Ke Huy Quan. He plays Short Round, but also he's got a new movie coming out called Love Hurts. He's an Academy Award winner for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and he's in this new movie, Love Hurts. And we're watching that trailer as I'm talking.
And because his mentor was Henry Sr., he was also, very Christian throughout his life. And so he's the world's most expert on this topic.
Exactly.
And so they go on this adventure, this race against the Soviets.
Hmm.
And along the way, they encounter Indiana Jones' other son, Mutt.
Right. Whose
And
whose end was falsely expressed in the previous film.
right. So as often happens at wartime, there are a
Hmm.
lot of people that are declared casualties
Hmm.
that it later turns out they are alive.
Maybe he had recovery time, and so, or maybe he had to recover his memory or something.
Well, I'm thinking there was a huge firefight. He got
Hmm.
lost and ended up in Cambodia somewhere
Ah,
where he was treasure hunting with someone there. I mean, I know a lot of people are anti-Shia LaBeouf.
recast it then. Go ahead, recast it if you have to.
No, I don't want to recast it. He's a
Okay.
great actor. He was in Fury
Hmm.
with Brad Pitt, and he was awesome in that.
Okay.
Like everyone else, he just needs a great script to work with.
Yes.
I think you make Mutt interesting now,
Hmm.
and maybe he's not just a Vietnam vet, but maybe he was a sniper in the war. He brings a new skill set to the game.
Right. And this is what you told me, which I'm going to hold on to, is that Mutt represents one part of Indiana Jones, the adventurer, the skilled adventurer, and then Short Round represents the scholar, the intellectual. And so you have them both there. What a fantastic idea. What a premise. I almost fell down when you brought Shia LaBeouf back in terms of do we have to? But when you told me that you have two characters that represent two sides of Indiana Jones, I went, that's it. That's it. I called it the Star Trek principle. That is, Kirk is having two sides of him represented by Spock, the intellect, and McCoy, the heart. So I call that the Star Trek principle. In fact, I have three ideas to throw into this conversation about how do you protect the franchise. Number one, do not destroy what we came here for, which is if you have Indiana Jones, okay, he needs a character arc in the story, but don't make him a wreck. He is effective. That's why we are here. That's part of the fantasy. That's part of the joy of watching a film, is that there's a lot of wrecks in real life. A lot of people who are miserable, a lot of people who are downtrodden, a lot of people who have given up, but not Indiana Jones. That's why we come to see him. So do not destroy what we're here for. Number two, go deeper into the character. And that's what you have there with the two aspects of Indiana Jones, the adventurer and also the intellectual, the archaeologist. And then number three, use the Star Trek principle, which is have two characters represent different sides of the main character. These are my thoughts about how can you carry on the franchise and not break the franchise. So as we come to a close, is there something you'd like to add about Spider-Man, Superman, Indiana Jones?
Just to finish my pitch real quick.
Okay. Do it.
So they also I'm not going to give the whole thing away because
Right.
we don't want to be here for 25 minutes.
True.
But they
And also, people should hire you. And then when they hire you, they usually bring me along. So that's what should happen.
but they have to get into Berlin to get some important documents that are a part of their mission.
Right.
And so they have to find a way to sneak through and penetrate the Berlin Wall.
Ah.
And then once they're in and they have the documents, they have to get out. And so there's a lot of jokes and reference back to The Last Crusade, which was the last time he had to go into Berlin to get a book.
Ah.
And
Okay.
the other thing is you, of course, have the Russian character, the super attractive female. And then I feel like I have the part worked out, the ending,
Mhm.
and giving Harrison Ford the death scene that he's
Mhm.
always wanted. So basically, Indiana Jones loads himself up with dynamite and guns to go fight the Russians so he
Ah.
can hold them off.
Right.
His
And
two sons and their companions that they're with, they can all get away.
which is what should have
And
happened in Star Wars. But Han Solo.
and
Yeah. Anyway.
yeah, and he grasps hands with Short Round,
Oh.
and he says something to him in ancient Greek,
Ah.
and then they take off.
Okay.
And then at the end of the movie, they get away. The
Mhm.
lance is safe.
Yes.
They're at the museum
Mhm.
looking at the lance,
Mhm.
a museum in Switzerland. And Mutt says, this belongs in a museum.
Right.
And he says, what was that thing that my dad said to you
Mhm.
in Greek? And Short Round says, he goes, well, you really should learn Greek. And he says, well, what did he say?
Okay.
He said John 15:13.
Oh.
And Mutt says, what's John 15:13?
Mhm.
And he says, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends.
Absolutely. And that's the kind of send-off that we need for Indiana Jones, where he does something noble, memorable, a story worth telling. I say a tale worth telling. Fantastic. Way to do it. Thank you so much. So
Yeah, glad you liked it.
yeah, well, so much that I said, please, let's share this with our wonderful folks. By the way, we want to thank you so much for being with us during this program. And as always, we're so glad you're here. We are growing, and we're glad to be here to celebrate. And I'm seeing out of the corner of my eye a team member saying, "Don't forget to show the merchandise." Okay, Creator's Edge. So, and you may not want the T-shirt, but you might want the mug. Okay, please do support us. Like, subscribe, get merchandise, have a good time, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Yeah, see you next time. Thanks a lot.
So remember, here at Creator's Edge Studio, we don't just talk entertainment.
We create it.